This studio I built in 1984. The studio that you came through upstairs, which is my wife's studio and my daughter's second office, was my studio. I bought this house because it had that room, which I thought was a big room at the time. But it turned out to be not a big room. I couldn't take tall paintings up very high. The ceiling was only 8 feet high. So in 1984, we built this studio, and it's worked out great for me. My father was an outdoorsman, and one of my father's friends used to entertain me by making these little drawings of these little simple oval shape with little curly legs called cooties, he called them. And I was, I was a kid. I was like, 12, 14? And I was just amazed at how easily these things came off the end of his pencil. And that was my first meaningful art experience. And then when I got to high school, I used to like to draw cartoons. And my high school art teacher asked me if I would do posters for the football games, baseball games, basketball game for the school, that I wouldn't have to do this class projects. And so right away I realized that there were perks in being an artist. And that's when I really sort of got interested in it. When I graduated from high school, I went to Sacramento Junior College, where Wayne Thiebaud was teaching. And he became my first serious art professor. This is a photograph. This is a photograph of myself, my wife, Betty Jean Thiebaud. Wayne Thiebaud took the photograph. We were in the middle of Wyoming or someplace on our way to New York. In the back of Wayne's car, he had rolled up paintings, and I had slides. And we were on our way to New York to go seek our fortune. So when we got there, 1962, the girls walked up and down Madison Avenue with our work, showing gallery dealers, and Wayne and I walked the side streets. I had no luck. Wayne met, through a friend that he had in New York, Robert Mallory, he met Alan Stone, who was Mallory's gallery. And when Alan Stone saw Wayne's work, fell in love with it, gave him a show the following year. The rest is history. I wasn't so fortunate. I sent my work to Leo Castelli Gallery, and they liked it, and they were selling stuff out of the back room, but I never actually had a show. They were just selling my stuff out of the back room. And finally, Castelli Gallery told me that there are 3 people who are anxiously awaiting your decision about where you want to show. So I took the advice of Ivan Karp, who worked at Castelli Gallery, and I went with a gallery called Bianchini, which was my first gallery in New York. And in those days, I believed that you had to, if you had to get anywhere in the art world, then you had to do it in New York. When I was teaching at Cal State Hayward, where I taught for 31 years, I used to have to sit in the gymnasium, during registration time every year. So I'm sitting there waiting for students to come in and pull class cards. Next to me in accounting, there's a line that serpentines around the gym, waiting to get into classes. In accounting, there's a short line. And then in the middle, there's art. And maybe 2 students would come in a half an hour. So the art department was shrinking. Nobody wanted to take art anymore at the end of my career at Cal State, until they instituted a graphics program in the art department, computer graphics. And they started requiring art. They started requiring drawing and painting classes. All of a sudden, my classes filled up again. So I realized that there must be something that I'm missing here. So in 1998, when I retired, I bought a computer. And I've been making work based on images that I create in the computer by pasting together photographs in Photoshop. I take my own photographs, I paste them together in Photoshop, and then I use that to make paintings of. That now becomes my model source. This is a combination of 3 images, 3 photographs. This candy is one photograph, this is another one, and the face is a third one. So I pasted the face onto that, and made this upper shelf on this thing. So that's going to be a painting which is going to be 6 feet by 5 feet. You know, I'm absolutely convinced that if Macintosh was around in 1628, Rembrandt would have used it. He would have used it for sure. It's technology that advances your concept of things. Yeah, it's an amazing device, amazing tool. It's a tool. It's like a pencil, paintbrush. I was in New York with a friend of mine named Roy Lichtenstein, whose girlfriend at that time worked at my gallery. And when I'm in New York, we usually go, Roy comes by at 5:30 to pick up Dorothy after work. And we usually were staying with him at his loft. And we go out to dinner and talk about art and life. And one evening, we got invited to go see, to have dinner at an artist named Robert Kulik. And Robert Kulik, it was a frame designer. He designed the metal section frame, made a fortune. And so we went to his house. He lived on West End Avenue in New York. We went to his house. You knock on the door. He comes to the door. We go in. And on the wall is a painting by Robert Motherwell. It's a black, all black painting, black all over, except down in the corner, there's some white canvas exposed and some drips coming down. And Roy said, blew me away, Roy said, "Isn't that a Motherwell?" And Kulik said, "Yeah, right, we traded." He says, "Is he a friend?" Kulik said, "Yeah, he's a friend of mine." And Roy then said, "Well, maybe you can get him to finish that painting." I thought that was brilliant. Another reason why I started to do unfinished paintings, because I went once to the Museum Marmottan in Paris, outside of Paris, and there you can find the last works of Monet. They look like Jackson Pollock's. They were considered unfinished paintings. But they look finished to me. Anyway, that's a funny term, unfinished. Never know what is unfinished. How do you know when it's unfinished? So I started to do a whole series of these things called unfinished paintings. They're face, usually the face, a breast, an arm, or something was painted in full color, realistically, and then the rest of the painting was all linear, black and white linear, oil paint. And so I was working on this one, and it was just going nowhere. I was just terribly depressed. It was going nowhere. I worked on it for like a month. And so I stuck it in my storage racks. And then I forgot about it. And it stayed there since 1991. It stayed there until this year, when I emptied my shelf, my storage racks, to send my work to this retrospective that I was having. I loaned them a lot of stuff that came out of my storage racks, and I saw this painting in the back, way stuck in the back corner. And so I pulled it out, looked at it, and I loved it. I just couldn't believe how I could hate it so much 12 years ago, stick it away, and then come back and find out that it's really not a bad painting after all. So I took it out and stuck it up on the wall there and looked at it for a while, and I finally realized that this painting is finished. So I signed it, framed it, and then I had a visitor from the Porsche, the car family, Porsche, Oliver Porsche. He wanted me to do a painting of his Volkswagen bus, which they're coming out with a new edition of this year. But when he saw this painting, this unfinished painting, he asked me, is it for sale? And I said, yeah, sure. And he bought it on the spot. I didn't have it out of the rack more than 2 days before it was sold. And that blew my mind because it was expensive.
Is there a moral to that story?
Gosh. Could be. Don't prejudge things. You know, a long time ago when I was a young boy, young student, I did a painting, and it was called Vita et Supra in Latin. And basically what it means is see what is stated above. Because I don't explain my work. Either you get it or you don't. I never explain it. When I was younger, I explained it, but I was more self-conscious then about things. And now, I mean, I have a history of antagonism from feminist people, feminist women. But that seems to have died down now, and I sort of survived all of that onslaught and kind of outlasted them when it came to my work. So some people thought of my work as provocative, semi-pornographic, but then along comes people like Robert Mapplethorpe and makes my work look very timid. Now they even show it in public places. They never used to do that. I had a hard time selling work to banks and places like that. But now that's all changed. Some people have said to me, boy, you really got a nice gig. You get to paint all these beautiful women, and they come and model for you, which is true. Pamela Anderson, for example, was here just not too long ago. But the thrill of making a painting that I really love is what I go for. And once I get it, I'm on cloud nine. I'm ecstatic. I love to make paintings that I really love. But I get maybe 3 out of 10 that I really love. It's hard to keep, I mean, I really admire Wayne Thiebaud, for example, who he gets a lot of work done. He's 90 years old. He paints every day. But sometimes he goes through and old paintings of his that he didn't like, he destroys them. I really respect the fact that he destroys stuff that he doesn't like, that doesn't work for him. I very rarely destroy a painting. I hang on until the very end, the bitter end. I try to keep working on it, trying to keep making it better. I know that I can make it better. I don't want to throw it away, but I know I can make it better. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I stick them in the racks, as I just told you the story about the one that I discovered. That it didn't need the work that I thought it needed after all. Maybe I just matured more and have different value system now. The reason why I loved it when I took it out of storage, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. First of all, painting is a lot of fun for me, and I like to have fun.
I think that's enough, just to have fun, right?
Yeah.